406.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 411 from 406. My name is Chewie, and I am joined once again by my brother from another mother, Mr. Pip. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm back podcasting right where I belong, and probably wrapping up for the year, if I'm not mistaken, right? I assume this will be our last one, but I'm glad that we're able to squeeze one more in.
I'm pumped. I was so as we sit here, it is December 26th. So happy belated Christmas. Merry Christmas wishes.
Same to you, of course.
Yeah, so the last episode of the podcast was episode 95. It was top 5 disappointing sequels, which I have to say was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. And so that was recorded on November 14th. So since we've chatted, we've had Thanksgiving and Christmas, and New Year's is right around the corner. So but I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we would get another one in this year. So I'm pumped that we're doing it.
Yes, I am too. I'm glad, especially during this holiday week in between Christmas and New Year's. It's especially difficult to plan these things, but I'm glad we were able to make that work for sure.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's start with Thanksgiving. How was Thanksgiving good? Was it eventful? Did you get turkey? What did you do? Anything good? Were you in town?
Yes, was in town. We ended up hosting here, and it was pretty fun. I would say mostly non-eventful. We watched some football and ate and drank and all that, and it was pretty good. And had a nice long weekend there with no work and with the family, which was fun. And then I mean, between then and Christmas, it just flew like it was lightning fast. Didn't hardly blinked, and then we found ourselves immediately thrust upon the Christmas season. So it all went very fast, but it was good, And
Good.
how about yours though?
Very similar. Yeah, we host Thanksgiving, so we had our family, Mark's family, my in-laws, my mom, and actually Amanda's brother's family. So we had a good group. We did have one tiny potential mishap. So my brother and I have been frying turkeys for the better part of, I don't know, God, 15 years now. And so this year we did 2 turkeys. We did like a 20 pounder in the oven and then a 14 or 15 pounder in the fryer. And before we fried turkey, we fried Oreos. I don't know if you've ever had fried Oreos, but they're amazing.
Nice.
But so we do the Oreos, we eat those kind of as an appetizer or whatever. And we're getting the oil back up to temp for the turkey, and the pot springs a leak. The oil pot springs a leak before the turkey has gone in. So it's 3 minutes a pound. We got a 15-pound bird. It needs to be in there for 45 minutes. And I'm like, fuck. And it wasn't like a little leak either. It was, I mean, a significant leak.
It was a squirter.
It was. Now, luckily, this story really doesn't go anywhere because, so we put the bird in quickly, like a little bit earlier than we thought we were going to, because I was like, oh shit, like if we're going to have to be adding oil to this thing or if it's going to explode or what have you. So, and something must have lodged in that tiny hole. I don't know if it was, a piece of turkey fat or whatever. And so luckily we got through it, and then the turkey came out fine, no further incidents. And then Mark actually had reordered a new turkey pot before he even left. So we didn't even clean it. We just threw it away, and he had a new one the next day. So next year we have one big enough for a 20-pound bird, which we're super pumped about. Like we've always had to stick to that 14 pounds or so because we didn't have one that was big enough. But next year we'll be able to fry a much bigger turkey. So yeah, so it could have been very eventful. You hear these horror stories of these turkey, these fireballs.
Sure.
Luckily we didn't have that, but I was very concerned as we put that bird in. I was a little bit worried. So And then, yeah, just like you, I mean, it was, Thanksgiving was so late this year that, I mean, it was like 3 weeks later, and then here's Christmas. And so, yeah, Christmas was relatively uneventful. Did mass on Christmas Eve, hung out with my in laws. Huge shout out to Larry, by the way, my father-in-law. He listens to every episode of the podcast. He actually, I was talking to him today, and he goes, "Are you going to record tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, that's going to be episode 96, isn't it?" I go, "Yes, it is." So
Oh my God, we have a super fan, not just a
we have
fan,
a
but like
super,
a
yeah,
super
yes,
fan.
we have a super
Shout out
fan.
to Big
So
Larry.
yes. So, yeah, and then yesterday we went over to Mark's house, and it was nice. It was just kind of low key. It was his family, my family, my mom, and it was nice. Just got to relax. And then today, God, what we do today? Oh, the boys were skiing all day, and Grayson was out. He was at basketball practice, and we just got to relax. It was nice. So,
Very
and I get
cool.
to podcast tonight, which I'm pumped about.
Right. I've got some bourbon. I've got some podcasting happening. It's all coming together. It's a great plan. What about
You have
your kids' Christmases? Did they have good ones? Anything fun of note that they got?
They did, yeah. So Link wanted a desk. So he has never had like a full size. He has a desk in his room, but so we got him a desk and
Hmm.
a desk, in the accompanying chair. And then he's also like my cleaner. He loves to clean, and so he
Oh
got a
gosh, that must be nice to have one of those.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So we got him this little portable steam cleaner that like cleans carpets and glass and all. So he's been, going, fixing stains in couches and rugs and all sorts of stuff. Crew got a, bunch of clothes. It was a big clothes thing. He got AirPods, a ski pass, and then Grayson, his big gift, he needed a new phone, so he got a new phone for Christmas. And yeah, so I think overall it was a pretty good day. Santa Claus, came and brought some goodies for them. So yeah, it was good. How about you? How about the
Nice.
girls?
Girls did really well. I mean, obviously, being girls, my ability to shop for them is especially difficult because all the things they want right now are makeup and fake nails and stuff that I have no idea about, even though it's surrounding me on a daily basis and clogging up the drains and all over the counters and everything. Like I still am just a dumb guy when it comes to that stuff. So, I did this sort of stereotypical let the wife buy most of the Christmas presents thing, just because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But I will say that, we got them each kind of one bigger gift. And for my oldest, we got my wife's gonna take her out to do like a spa day and do like a cut and color kind
Oh,
of thing. She's
that's
gonna get her
awesome.
hair colored and they're gonna go out to dinner wherever she wants, and it was kind of fun. And for Olive, I ended up getting her Royal Rumble tickets, which she is so
Yes.
excited about, which is both really exciting for me, but also pretty bittersweet because of course we had originally planned to go together, you and me and your brother.
Yes.
And I even asked you at one point, I'm like, do you care if I bring Olive? Because I can't in good conscience go to this and not bring her. And of course you said yes, and then unfortunately, some other plans got in the way, and you guys both let me know. You guys both have like some kind of programs or something like on the same night at the same weekend, and unfortunately that fell through. So I'm like, well, I thought it was a good opportunity to still take Olive, and so I printed off a couple. I don't actually, truth, full disclosure, I don't actually have the tickets yet. I didn't buy them, but I'm committing
Yeah.
to going no matter what because the tickets are still pretty expensive and
Yeah.
they are very well, I mean, obviously, I guess I'm talking more
Yeah.
to the audience than you, but they are very dynamic even up to the day of the event in terms of the pricing. And I was not going to buy them before Christmas. That just didn't make any sense at all. So I just sort of resigned myself to saying, look, even if I get some upper balcony seats for like $150 or something like that, she's not going to care. She's just going to want to go. And so I printed off a couple tickets and I put it in her stocking and she opened it up. And I have the video of it. I'll have to send it to you if you want to see it. But like she started crying. She got so excited.
Did she
She
really?
actually started
Oh, that's
crying.
awesome.
And then at the bottom of her stocking, she pulled out another little piece of paper and it had one other ticket on it. And it had a picture of Rhea Ripley. And the ticket said meet and greet. So I actually purchased a meet and greet with Rhea
Oh,
Ripley
wow.
where we get to go meet her and take a picture with her. And it's just
Oh,
like
that's
we,
awesome.
you know what it is. I mean, it's a 2 minute thing, just like we've done, you and I, with Robert Englund and James Wong from Big Trouble in
Yep.
Little China. And so, it's not going to be much, but she gets to meet Rhea Ripley, and she just lost her shit. She was so, so excited about it because my buddy sent me the link. And of course, they have like a bunch of sponsored meet and greets, throughout the entire weekend with not all the superstars, but most of them. And within maybe 2 days, Rhea Ripley's as the first and only to sell out. And I managed to get one of those before. And so she's like, I'm gonna meet Rhea Ripley. I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna tell her? You want to bring something? You want to give her something? Like, that would be really cool. And she's just like, her mind is all over the place. She can't stop talking about it, and she's very excited. So this is probably the best Christmas that I've had, getting to enjoy it through my kids. And I didn't get anything for Christmas. My wife and I didn't exchange any presents this year. It was all for the kids. And this is probably my favorite of all time, just based off of her reaction and how excited she is, knowing that she's not going to be able to sleep for another month until we get to go.
Dude, that is so, I haven't, since you said that, I haven't wiped the smile off my face. That is awesome. I'm so excited for you guys. I'm so excited for her. I cannot wait to hear how that goes. As I watch that event that night, because I will be able to watch it. I just won't be able to be there. But oh, dude, that's awesome. I'm super excited for you guys.
Yeah,
That's
I
way to go,
appreciate
super
that.
dad. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like I have to strike while the iron's hot because she's a girl, right? And
Yeah,
eventually, of course, she'll realize, I don't know, maybe wrestling's not super cool to watch anymore, and I want to be friends with people that would probably shit all over that kind of stuff. And I kind of hope she doesn't do that. I mean, but I did, for a while. There was a period of time where I'm like,
yeah.
oh, geez, I need to grow up and grow out of these things. And then, of course, I met you, and then realized, oh shit, no, I don't have to do that. I've got best friends who love Star Wars and wrestling and all the stupid shit I used to like when I was a kid. So I'm just gonna go back to liking that stuff. And here I am, 30 years later, still doing just that. So I hope she finds her way that way. But eventually she'll be like, Dad, I don't want to watch wrestling anymore. That's not cool. So I figured I'll take her while the opportunity is still very much
That
alive.
is that is awesome. Yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, we I was gonna plan on being there, and both Link, my youngest son, and my niece Scarlett are both. They're actually in two separate plays that same weekend. And so like he has performances Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and I tried to figure out like how I could make it happen. And oh, on top of that, I'm going to be out of town for work the previous like Saturday through Wednesday. It would have been a
Yeah.
lot to ask of Amanda to be like, "Hey, I'm out
Right,
again
right.
after being gone for, whatever." So, and I couldn't miss Link's play. So, but I imagine Mark and I will probably watch it together, and I imagine I will be blowing up your phone as returns occur and stuff happens. So that's, oh,
Yeah.
dude, that's awesome.
Uh,
I'm really excited for you guys. That's awesome.
Well, it's for the record, and I'll say it here so that it's archived and digital forever. It's still my goal, one of my main friendship goals with you, between now and the time that we both, shuffle this mortal coil, is to go to each of the major PLEs for WWE. So we've checked. I've Together we've only checked off SummerSlam. I know you've been to a
Yep.
WrestleMania, and I'm getting ready to go to a Royal Rumble. But you and I, and Mark, if he wants to, obviously, we need to go to all of them at least once. We need to
Okay.
make it a point
We
to
can
do
make
that.
that
And I,
happen.
I don't even care if we have to travel. Like,
Yeah.
I my wife goes on a few trips a year with her friends and does all that stuff. I will be able to do that as long as it obviously doesn't conflict with some other sort of event.
Yeah.
Um, but when Survivor Series rolls around this year, or when Mania comes to Indianapolis, which it's supposed to do
Well, they
in the
said they said
future,
all three of them are coming, right? Didn't they
they
say? Didn't they announce
said
when they announced the Rumble? It was three of them, right?
I think they said everything but Survivor Series. I thought they said SummerSlam,
Okay.
the Rumble, and WrestleMania, and obviously the
And
Rumble was the
WrestleMania.
first one. So yeah, who knows when that happens. But again, I don't even care if it's close. Like, I think making a pilgrimage or having a trip to go
Yeah.
visit someplace out of town and do the whole experience would be super fun. So let's make it a pact here that we're going to do that before
Yes.
our time is over as wrestling
For
fans.
sure. Well, and I like in a weird sort of way, I think that gets easier as kids get older, right? You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
it's like,
tons. Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we're like older, creepier guys going to WrestleMania in our 50s and 60s, but
Hmm.
it's like it becomes easier for us to do that. So,
Yeah, and I've got no qualms being old and or creepy. So I think it's right up our alley for sure.
right.
So
Have you so since we chatted last, there have been two pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever we're calling it. Have you watched
mhm.
both of them? Did you watch what'd you think?
Yeah, so what was there? It was
So the
the
Survivor Series was the
Survivor
first one.
Series War
Yeah.
Games, and then we had Saturday night's main event, which
Yes.
was pretty cool. So I guess starting with Survivor Series, I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was particularly memorable. I don't love the gimmick of the two rings and the cage. Like it just doesn't really do anything for me, or the fact that it becomes this sort of handicap match type thing for the majority of the match where you start, one on one, but then a second person comes in and then I don't know, you have to be really good with the storytelling aspect of the match in order to make that work and seem plausible, I think. And I don't think they do bad. I would say the women's match wasn't as exciting as I hoped it would be. Io Sky did her thing with the trash can. It was basically the same thing that she did the year before, just a
Yep.
different colored trash can. So, I mean, it was fine. I was hoping for a little bit more of something to happen because if we go back to Survivor Series of last year, CM Punk came back, and actually it
Yep.
was Randy Orton's first match back, if I remember correctly, too. So there
Yep.
was a lot of stuff going on. There was, outside of the matches, and I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. The CM Punk and the Bloodline stuff was like, I don't know, kind of whatever. They moved on from that pretty quickly, and I think the only really continuing storyline is going to be that favor that Paul Heyman owes CM Punk at some point, which I don't know. I guess is kind of interesting, but we all probably know it's going to lead to a match with Roman at some point, or maybe I guess I don't know. Um, and the Cody thing is just it's fine, but it's starting to run its course a little bit already, as we know will happen much quicker these days with true baby faces. Like nobody wants that for an extended period of time. I will say though that. I, well, I guess before I go on to the main event, did you have any other thoughts or comments around Survivor
Yeah.
Series War Games?
Yeah, I tend to agree with almost everything you said. I'm not a big fan of the Survivor Series format either. I don't particularly care about the two rings or the cages, but what rubs me the wrong way is it's like basically those matches are you've got 40 minutes as people are making their way into the ring where the match doesn't even officially start. Like it
God,
doesn't
yeah.
start officially until, so nothing, I mean, it's not that nothing's going to happen, but it's like you can literally go to the bathroom and come back, to see the quote unquote end of the match. So the match itself is only like 7 minutes long. But
Yeah.
you've been sitting there watching it for 47 minutes. So, that kind of leads to a lot of dead space. It leads to a lot of like, of these setup spots where it's like there's seven people over here and there's one guy on the top of the cage and we're all gonna like, and I
Yeah.
get it, but it's and then the other thing about Survivor Series in general that I don't really care for is it's like they're almost at this point they're going out of their way to like create these storylines between these factions, right? Like it makes sense with the Bloodline versus Bloodline, but the Rhea versus Liv thing just kind of came together in like the last 2 weeks just before the show, and you're like, and I suppose it always was that way, right? When you used to have the traditional 5-on-5 matches, which I didn't care for either.
Right.
It's by far my least of the favorite or of the big four pay-per-views by far. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you hit on a good point. I tried to tip my hat to that as well. It's the storytelling has to be on tap. Otherwise, it's just a long, boring match. And
yeah,
I wonder what's going to happen the next time they have to do a Survivor Series without a bloodline, without a
yeah,
faction that's going to be sort of taking center stage for that because they've had the bloodline story for a couple of years now. It's changed obviously, and the players have bounced around a little bit, and the good guys are the bad guys, and the bad guys are the good guys, all that kind of thing. So but like to your point, like the women's match, it just sort of kind of felt cobbled together without really like there's no stakes, there's no outcome, there's no title on the line. Like it would be great if they could, I don't hate the format, but there needs to be something else on the line for that. I
Yeah.
think that would help set it up for something like the Royal Rumble was always great as what it was, but it became 10 times better when the winner got a title shot at WrestleMania. And I know they can't do the same thing, but they need to create some kind of voting interest in one of the teams rather than just like, well, I like this guy, so I'm going to write for this team or root for this
Yeah.
team. I
Yeah.
just, I don't think I think they're getting closer. I just don't think they've hit it yet.
Yeah, I guess, and to that point, in my opinion, the greatest spot in that women's match was when, who is it that has the Money in the Bank? Is it
Tiffany
Tiffany
Stratton.
Stratton? Where
Hmm.
like
I
both
love
the
her. I
two
think she's really
champions,
talented.
right? She is really talented, and like there was a spot in that match where both the champions, both Liv and oh God, what's her name?
Nia
The
Jax.
SmackDown champ, yeah, Nia Jax. They were both down, and it was like, oh my God, is she going to cash in? Who's she going to cash in on? Is she going to cash
Yeah.
in on both of them? And that was like, to your point, that was like the only kind of real story in that particular match, and
Yeah.
it was super compelling for that,
Yeah.
90 seconds, and so
And that one had some cool moments. Like I liked a few of those spots. I would say a lot of that ladies match just didn't feel very coordinated and didn't feel like their hearts were in it. But I really liked the end when Raquel Rodriguez got handcuffed and
mhm.
like that whole thing was pretty clever because you knew those were going to come. One spot that I will say that I am still to this day very impressed with in the Survivor Series was in the men's War Games match. And it's the one where Bronson Weed, the one where Bronson Reed is jumping off the top rope and getting ready to go through, I
Oh,
think it was through Roman to through the
and
table,
Punk saved him.
and
Yeah,
Punk saved him. And if you watch that a couple times, the timing on that had to be fucking crackerjack. Like Punk got up at the time, he yanked him. I mean, he pulled him hard. And if he'd have let him there for another second, like Bronson Reed would have would have absolutely
yeah.
destroyed him.
Well,
And Bronson Reed broke his ankles on
I
that
was to say broke his
exact
foot or broke
move.
his ankle. Yeah, yeah.
I think he broke both of them, but I mean, he messed himself up pretty good, maybe just one of them. But I just like I watched that over and over. I'm like, that timing was so precise, and that's one thing that could have gone very, very wrong, but fortunately did not. And not just from a storyline perspective, but from a, if that guy's coming through the table, you're gonna get
Hmm.
hurt. Like that's not gonna feel good.
So you touched on it a little bit. Do you have a guess at this point what this favor is going to be that Punk is going to ask? And the second part of that question is Paul Heyman going to honor it? Like, is he? So Punk's going to ask, is Heyman going to do it?
Yes, 100%. I think
Okay,
he's gonna do
I
it.
think you're right. Yeah.
I think he's loyal to Punk almost more than Roman at this point. At least that's the way the storyline feels like it's going.
Hmm.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have, really tried to convince him to be a part of that. So I don't know. It's interesting because Cody has the title. So there's nothing really that Heyman can do for CM Punk right now. So I don't know where it's gonna go. I guess I don't know why. Well, I gotta kind of break it all apart, right? Because Punk and Rollins are obviously they're in a program right now, and they're going to wrestle on January 6th, I believe it is, which is the first
Yep.
episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. They're gonna go all out for that. It sounds like they're gonna make that a crazy fucking show. And this match, which I would have expected them to save for WrestleMania, is going to happen on this show. Now, maybe this is part one of three. I could see them doing that kind of like they did with Seth and Cody Rhodes. Like they had like
Hmm.
three matches together, right? So maybe that's what they do here. They do this is part one because I really thought they would save this for WrestleMania. It seems like a big enough match that they would need it for that. But I'm trying to figure out where Paul Heyman has anything that CM Punk wants at this point because if Punk maintains a feud with Seth Rollins up until Mania, that maybe this is just something they're putting in their pocket for a later date. I don't know. Or maybe they're planning. Actually, you know what? I really hope they're planning, and it's kind of a bigger picture thing. I hope that the Roman Cody thing gets a little bit more buddy buddy, and then Roman eventually turns on him and then takes the title back from him. I think that would be a plausible way to see Cody lose that belt because who else is he going to lose it to right now? I don't think there's a heel big enough that really anybody wants to see. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not thinking of somebody, but it's either going to have to be a friend versus friend match, a face versus face, or it's going to have to be, I think it's got to be Roman almost. I mean, I don't think they're going to let The Rock take it off him. That would be silly. And I mean, I guess they could with like Solo or something, but that just, I hate that idea. I don't know. But I'm just kind of, fan booking the next 6 months trying to figure out what this is going to look like.
I agree with you. I think whatever Punk asks Paul to do, I think he's going to do it. But I agree with you. I'm not sure what he would ask at this point. For some reason, I have a feeling Punk is going to be in one of the main events at WrestleMania. I think that's going to
Really?
happen.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I have no reason to, I have no reason to back that. So I don't know. Maybe do you get like,
Well, it could be because they've making a big point to push the fact that Punk has never main evented a WrestleMania.
right,
Like
right.
like Seth has been chiming in on that a lot. But I
You
think
know
the
how,
only way to get
yeah,
them in a main event together is if one of them gets the title, because otherwise there's nothing on the line. There's no stakes. So does
how
Gunther
about,
give up
yeah.
his title? I don't know.
Well, or how about something like where maybe either, let's see, maybe Roman wins the Rumble and Punk says, "Hey, give me a spot," or or Roman is in the Elimination Chamber and Punk says, "Hey, give me his spot," something like that. That could, and then he wins the. I don't know.
Or
Could be
yeah, or
something like that.
it ends up being Punk and Roman at the the last two in the ring for the Rumble, and
And he asked him to jump out. Yeah,
somehow Paul gets him out of there and betrays Roman or something. I don't know. Like it could be something like that. That's how you get Punk in the main event is if you give him the Rumble win, which I think is actually very plausible.
yeah.
It's
So
just a
okay,
matter,
so
but are you giving up on the Seth program by doing that? I don't know. Like it's interesting because Seth, I don't think he's going to get the title back. I mean, I don't know how I'm trying to imagine how Gunther gets rid of it because Gunther doesn't really have a who's he feuding with right now? I'm trying to even remember.
he fought. Who did he fight?
Didn't he
He fought
fight?
Damian Priest. He fought Damian Priest at main event,
Yeah,
and he beat him. He beat him two or three times now.
yeah,
I don't know. I still think there's a Randy Orton play there where you can get Randy Orton to take the title off Gunther, and then you slot in John Cena versus Randy Orton for the 17th world
yeah.
title, which I think would be fucking awesome.
I also think Drew
Um,
McIntyre is still in the hunt very
I
much
think
at
he
this point.
probably is.
He's
Yeah,
really he's maintaining some good momentum in his sort of gray area. Is
yeah.
he friends with these guys? Is he not? Kind of thing. I would love to see Cena. I don't think Cena will get a title. I don't think Orton will get a title, but I would love to see them. God, I would love to see them in the hunt for it. I would love to be
It'd be
surprised and
amazing.
be wrong and see one of them win. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be good for business,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, I forgot about Drew. I think Drew and Punk I think is done. I think Punk beat him so handily at Hell in the Cell. I don't think they're going to revisit that.
Yeah.
And I almost kind of wonder if the Punk Seth thing like ends next Monday night on January 6th. Like because it's been going on forever. I don't
Well,
know.
but has it though? Because they haven't fought yet. And this is to your point, it has been going on for a year now because it's when Punk came back and there was all that
Yeah.
footage of Seth getting so upset, but they haven't fought yet. They haven't if unless I'm totally forgetting something, which is entirely possible. They haven't if they did
They
fight,
may not have because Punk got hurt, right? And then Seth got
yes.
hurt and yeah.
Yeah, and everybody sort of took turns on the bench and they had different programs and all that stuff. And then Rollins kind of helped out at WrestleMania and all that stuff. So I just thought that they were going to make this like a 6 month thing where those guys were going at
Yeah.
it. And maybe they don't, but that's, I think, what we wanted to see from the beginning when Punk came back out. Like, I think Punk Rollins
Yeah, for sure.
was really the main attraction. I don't know who else you'd put Punk with that I feel like could work with him as well and still put him over. I mean, the Drew McIntyre matches were really good, I
Yeah,
think. But I think Seth is so much more dynamic than Drew is. So
I agree.
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
where do you slot in Kevin Owens? I mean, I thought that, going on to the main event, I thought that main event was outstanding. I was really pulling for KO to win that match. I didn't think he would, but
I
I
know.
thought it would have been awesome if he won the title.
I thought it would have been cool too. I could not imagine they would do that on a Saturday night's main event, but I like him better as a heel. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get anything. I think there's just too many really good talents right now that there's just not enough for him to bite off. I
Yeah.
just, he's this feud with Cody's a really good one, and it does help put Cody over even more. But like if he's not feuding with him, I don't know. I don't know what he does. I don't know where he goes. He could go against Rollins, I suppose, but I would love to see him go after a title, but I don't know if I see it happening.
Yeah. Now has okay, so on the main event, which actually okay, let's switch gears to Saturday night's main event. In general, I thought that was an okay show. It really I don't think it was really a PLE, but that's kind of the way they played it. So I don't know. Was it wasn't I don't know. The main event I thought was a great wrestling match. I was bummed though that they didn't put the angle after the match on the show. Like they should have put, in my opinion, they should have put that pile driver and Cody's stretcher job on that show, and they didn't. I don't understand why they didn't do it. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. I think they've been doing that. I mean, that's how Kevin Owens turned, if you remember,
Right.
like when he
Yeah.
went against, when he basically turned on Cody, that's how they did it, is they did it off camera and they used all this other footage. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't necessarily know why they decided to do it that way, but I will say that the event itself I thought it was actually pretty good. I liked seeing Chelsea Green win their title.
The
I
US
think
title. Yeah.
the women probably have too many titles at this point because they're getting ready to get an Intercontinental one too, and I just don't know that they have enough people to bounce a US title and a Intercontinental title around, but not sure. But the other matches, I mean, I thought they were good. I thought the presentation was great. I loved sort of the throwback aspect of
Mm-hmm.
it. It was really wonderful how it was done. I maybe I'm the only one, and I'm not sure, but I fucking loved having Jesse the Body Ventura back on WWE TV. Like, there's just something about his voice and his presence there that brought so much character. And between all of the music because they played all the original music from the Saturday night's main event. It just, here's what it was for me. And I don't know if you feel this way or not, but when I was a young wrestling fan, when I was really getting into it, Saturday night's main event was the best thing ever. The best thing because my parents never really chipped in for any of the pay-per-views. We never really got to see a lot of WrestleManias or SummerSlams or Royal Rumbles. So the Saturday night's main event was the closest thing we had to that because if you remember the old shows, the weekly shows like Wrestling Challenge, I think, and Superstars of Wrestling,
Superstars. Yeah.
there were a bunch of them. 90% of all those shows were Ted
Jobbers.
DiBiase versus Barry Horowitz or Iron Mike Sharp, or, like it was all enhancement talent stuff. And maybe at the very end of the show, they'd have Tito Santana versus Rick Martel. Like the best they ever got was a mid card match. But Saturday night's main event was the one place as a kid you could tune in and you could see Hulk Hogan fight Andre the Giant or Jake the Snake and the Macho Man. And, like the names go after each other. And things are very different now. You can turn on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and you can see, high level talents going against each other. But it was a very special thing for me as a wrestling fan growing up to get to watch Saturday night's main event, to get real excited to find out that Saturday Night Live wasn't going to be on TV tonight and it was going to be preempted by Saturday night's main event. I was so fucking excited about that. So I think the nostalgia thing and just the getting to watch all that stuff again really added to the nostalgia piece of it. Was it a great show? I mean, it was fine. I thought the Drew McIntyre Sami Zayn match was really good. The Liv Morgan Io Sky was a little disappointed. She was just weirdly sort of thrown into that match. I think she's sort of anointed as being the next one who's gonna really get a push, but they just decided not to do it there for whatever reason. I like the Gunther Finn Balor Damian Priest match. I thought that was really good. So I mean, overall, I liked it. I thought it was solid, and I would be remiss to not say it was the first fucking time in probably 30 years Tito Santana has showed up on WWE TV. I was so excited about that. Like I didn't know if there was like some weird beef or what the whole story was there, but Tito Santana was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And after he retired, he just kind of stayed away from the business. He wasn't one of those guys that always came back or did any, guest appearances or anything like that. So to see him back on there was just like, it was the icing on the cake of the whole experience. So I definitely gave it a thumbs up. What I'm not a big fan of, and I'll stop talking here in a second, is they're already gonna do another one, I think, next month. And that bums me out. Like this should be a once, maybe twice a year thing, in my opinion, just to help preserve some of the magic of it. Because otherwise, again, what is it for? It's just another PLE that doesn't really have a lot of value. It risks saturating the product, I think. But I don't know. What did you think? Do you agree, disagree with any of that?
I agree with a lot of what you said. So yes, the you're right. The next, so that was the first Saturday Night's main event since 2008. And you're right. They're having one in January, which I think is a mistake in my opinion. Like it's fine to have pay-per-views, but I agree. The allure of Saturday night's main event when we were growing up is you couldn't have said it better. It's like it was pay-per-view quality matches that we never got to see.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look because I was like you. I didn't buy pay-per-views when I was growing up at all. God, I mean, the first WrestleMania that I saw was probably like I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but it was 10, 12. Like it was a long, I did not
Yeah.
see them grow. And I never watched any of the other pay-per-views until you and I got to North Lane and started doing,
Yeah.
the 5 for 5 and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Same.
I am a huge Jesse the Body Ventura fan, massive. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little disappointed in Jesse. Not that I didn't love the nostalgia, and you're right. Like I loved the set, I loved all the stuff. And I don't know what it was. I only watched it once, but Jesse was kind of rubbing me the wrong way because he was doing the same exact Jesse shtick that he did, 35 years ago. Again, it was awesome to see him, but you know what I think it was? I think it was a weird. Actually, now that I talk through it, this is exactly what it was. It was when I loved Jesse, it was back when he was with Bobby Heenan or
Yeah.
Gorilla Monsoon. And
Hmm.
this time he was with Joe Testatori and Pat McAfee. And it was just a weird dichotomy
Yeah.
between Jesse and because like Jesse was doing his shtick, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
And Pat and Joe and Michael Cole were still calling it like down the like by the book, quote unquote, right? So
Yeah.
Jesse's doing his like uber heel announcer thing that he's always done that he's awesome at, right? But then
Yes.
Pat is calling it like it's a normal match. So I don't know, and maybe I'm nitpicking, and it's only because I'm a 40+ year wrestling fan. The event itself, the match of the night for me was the Gunther match. I thought that
Hmm.
that match was amazing. I'm right there with you with Io Sky and Liv. I love Liv. I don't quite get Io Sky. Yeah, but I mean, and again, I meant the main event was great. I love seeing the Winged Eagle
Oh my God.
on
Yeah.
Cody. Yeah, I mean, it's
I'm
amazing.
glad you said that because I would have been pissed if I would have forgotten to mention that. But when he came out there with the Winged Eagle, I
Yeah,
mean, there's just nothing. If memory serves, that's where the Winged Eagle made its debut. I
it did.
think it
It's
was when Hulk Hogan, because there's sort of a semi-famous story behind it, right? Like he cut a promo with the old belt and then he walked out with the Winged Eagle. So he had two different championship belts in the same night. I think the promo was probably cut either the day before, maybe even the weekend before, or something like that. But yeah, so like that was the Winged Eagle debuted on Saturday night's main event. I want to say probably the one where he lost it to Andre. I don't know if it was that same episode,
it
but
was it was right around there. I seem to remember. I thought that title had to be created because Andre was too big to wear the other one. Like I like there had something to do with like, so that's right around the two Dave Hebners and the
yeah.
like all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I don't remember if it was debuted there, but it was certainly like right around there. And yeah, and like I said, the Cody and KO match I thought was great as a match.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
really would have loved to have seen the pile driver and then the stretcher job from Cody like on the event. I still don't quite understand why they did it that way. Now
Yeah.
let me ask you this: have we seen Cody since then? I haven't. I don't watch SmackDown, so have we? Has he? Did he show up since then or no?
I don't watch SmackDown either.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess he hasn't been out there, but I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure.
So
And
here's so what do you think about this? And this is like I don't know anything. Like I have heard and I have read that Cody's reign has not been awesome, just in terms of like excitement and this. In my opinion, I think we've talked about it on the pod. I thought Cody was much better chasing the title than he was holding the title. My opinion. What if you just like hurt him and he like goes away for 6 months and they you know what I'm saying? And like they go through Mania, and then you've got the John Cena's of the world, the CM Punks, the Drew McIntyre, like all those guys. I don't know if you do a tournament, but like maybe you just like delete him from the did, I don't know, did they hurt him on purpose, quote unquote, storyline wise? I mean, it was clearly a storyline.
yeah,
I don't
man,
know.
my first instinct is I hate it. I hate it because I would rather see him lose than have it stripped. Because
Mm-hmm.
if he gets stripped of it, then he's going to be going on a whole tear about I never lost the title, and I feel
Sure,
like they will push
sure.
him to get it back again. And I would almost rather see it
Mm-hmm.
bounce between a few people rather than have them try to Hulk Hogan, Cody Rhodes, like to turn him into that
Mm-hmm.
sort of inevitable winner kind of scenario. But, a lot of time has passed since those days, so maybe they could find a creative, clever way to do it. I will say that from the perspective of it's anybody's title to win, I could, if Cody's not in it, if Cody's taken out of the picture, I could see Seth getting it back. I could see Drew having it. I don't know that I could see any of those people beating Cody, but I could see all of those people winning that title. I could see Kevin Owens
That's what I'm
doing it.
saying.
I can't see anybody beating Cody right now because Cody's still, in my opinion, I think he's over. You said that his title reign hasn't been as dynamic maybe as the company wanted. It's hard for me to picture that. I mean, I would agree that he's definitely better chasing it, but I would say that I don't feel like the crowd's turning against him yet, and I think that they're still very much into him, his entrance, his everything, He still seems to have a lot of charisma,
Oh,
works the mic great and all of that stuff. Maybe it's not Hulk Hogan level, babyface super over kind of stuff, but I think if he kept it through WrestleMania, I mean, that's not what I would want to see personally, but I don't think it would be damaging the product, you know. That's kind of where I see it, but I would
so
also love to see
yeah.
somebody else get it.
So it's funny. You just made me think about something. I think the problem that they are having right now with Cody, if they're having problems with Cody, goes all the way back to stuff that we've talked about on the podcast for years. They built Roman to such a point where who is it going to be that's going to beat Roman, right? He had that title for what, 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, this, that, and the other thing. And they ultimately built an amazing story, an Avenger Endgame level story around Cody finishing the story, right? So now, because they had such a massive heel in Roman for so long, you can't just like take the title off Cody, right? You have to have him hold it for a while because he was the big conqueror
Yeah.
of arguably one of the greatest heels of all time.
Yeah, you
You know
have
what I'm
to give him the
saying?
credibility. You can't just take it off
Exactly.
him like 5 minutes after you let him win it. Otherwise, you devalue
Exactly.
the whole product.
So now I'm not suggesting that they're going to try to build Cody into the like the face equivalent of what Roman was. I don't think they could, but I think that's there. You're still kind of feeling ripples of the Roman quote unquote problem. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense, and I think that that's a very astute observation. I also think that they have an option, if they want to exercise it, to keep the title on him until people get so fucking sick of him that they're able to turn him heel. And
Massive heel,
then
massive.
you
Yeah.
take the title off of him at that point, maybe. Or you take the title off of him and then you turn him heel, and then he gets it back and he becomes NWO Hogan, right? Because I think they have learned from their mistakes from not turning Hogan heel. The WWF did not
Mm-hmm.
do that. And even according to urban legend, and of course Hogan talks out of both sides of his mouth, he wanted to turn heel while he was still in WWF, and he thought that that would be something that they should do, and Vince never wanted to do it. And then, of course, he did it in WCW, and it became the biggest fucking thing in the whole world. So I don't think they will make that same mistake with Cody. You could also argue they did the same mistake with John Cena. They never turned
Hmm.
him heel. They never allowed that to happen. But John Cena is one of those characters where he you can get away with that with John Cena because he seems like a likable, very charismatic guy. Um, Cody has got a dark side to him for sure. He's got arrogance, and I think it's only a matter of time before this narrative of him betraying his friends or not being loyal to his friends ends up festering to the point where he's like, you know what? Fuck you. Fine. I'm the bad guy now. I don't have any friends. I'm going to go hang out with Roman. I'm going to be part of the new bloodline or what. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
that, but eventually Kevin Owens is going to be proved right, I think. And that's going to be interesting.
See that right there, you nailed it. That is it. You talked about astute observations. That was the thing that as I'm watching the Cody KO match the other day, I'm like, I'm rooting for KO. And the reason I'm rooting for KO is because he's right.
He is right.
He got screwed. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes,
Hmm.
we all love Cody and Cody's the good guy, but what KO is saying, he's not a traditional heel. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's right.
Right.
Cody did the wrong thing by KO, by Seth. Like, he did the
Yeah.
wrong
By
thing
Randy. Yeah.
by Randy. Yeah. So, yeah, oh, you nailed it. That was perfect.
I think that's if they want to, this is how I would love to see them play it out, right? They're now just sort of dropping the hints, the very, very light hints that there's chinks in Cody's armor and in his confidence and in his credibility. And eventually they're going to start chipping away at that and it's going to shatter. And that's going to be the next greatest thing that happens since he beat Roman for the title. And I think it's going to totally turn everything on its heels. And that's going to be super interesting. That'll be fun.
Well, as we've been saying on this podcast for years, like it's an awesome time to be a wrestling fan. Like from now through the Rumble, I mean, it's WrestleMania season, right? We're here. I mean,
Yes.
it's and the fact that we can sit here for 45 minutes on this podcast already and talk about wrestling when we didn't even plan on talking about wrestling just goes to show, right, that it's like
Yeah,
it's the best time of the year to be a wrestling fan. So, Larry, I
for sure.
apologize. I know you're not a wrestling fan, but well, we can move on from wrestling.
Right. I'll put an audio insert at the beginning of this and said, if you want to skip past the wrestling, go to the 47-minute mark.
Right. There you go.
But yeah, exciting stuff, super fun. I love the fact that the road to WrestleMania starts in Indianapolis, and I'll be there for it. And I'm very excited, and it's going to be classic, and we'll have plenty more to talk about in the coming months as we approach the magical 100th episode of the
Yes,
411 406.
for sure.
So, uh,
What you said you had a couple other things you want to chat about tonight. What do you got for me?
yeah, I mean, a couple other things that I think are noteworthy. We talked at some length about the Indiana University football season and how it was a miracle season for them. It certainly was. Unfortunately, it came to a very well, unfortunately slash fortunately. This is a tough one for me being a Notre Dame football fan. But IU went to South Bend for the first round of the college playoffs and basically got completely embarrassed. And
Yeah.
it was really hard for me to watch as much as I am a Notre Dame fan, and I had to make the decision to root for Notre Dame during that game because, my heart and my soul will always be in Bloomington, but my love for college football will start and die in South Bend. I mean, that's the way it is. And I think as a program, Notre Dame needed it more. That's the justification that I used is that Marcus Freeman is in his third year as the head coach there. I love him. I think he's a great coach. He's very inspiring. He seems like a really good guy. I want to see him succeed, but the third year is kind of the magic year for Notre Dame coaches. And while I don't think he's going to win any national championships by any means this year specifically, he needs to have a good showing, I think. And getting out of the first round of the playoffs was definitely the right step there. But I wanted it to be close. I literally rooted for whoever had the ball, throughout that whole game. And IU just couldn't get their stuff together, and it was incredibly disappointing because all the rhetoric around, well, Alabama's sitting at home thinking they should have made the playoffs. It's kind of right. I mean, I hate to say it, but Indiana basically exposed themselves as a team that had a very, very light schedule and took it. I won't say took advantage, but they did what they were supposed to do. Like they beat up on all the teams they were playing, and they even beat a Michigan team, which wasn't great, but still not an easy win for them. But the only two teams worth of shit that they faced this season, they got manhandled by. And it really bummed me out. I was really disappointed because I wanted to believe that they were for real, and unfortunately, I don't think they're there yet. I think they can get there, but not for this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously I was rooting for the Hoosiers. I as you and I've talked, I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan. And I was hoping I did not think that we would win that game by any stretch. Um, I was hoping to not get embarrassed. And, I mean, we got a touchdown in junk time, which made,
Yeah.
if you look at the score of that game, it's closer than it really was. You're right. We looked terrible. I was really bummed about, so you're right in that we had a terrible strength of schedule. And, when we came up against two teams, Ohio State and then Notre Dame, they just clean our clocks. But you're also right in that like we beat who was ahead of us, right? All we could do is play who's across from us, and we beat bad teams and we lost to good teams, right? And so I was a little bummed about like the way the coverage was during the Notre Dame game and like the way they were just shitting on Indiana like it was their job. And
Yeah.
I get it. They're not wrong, but I would have, as a Hoosier, it bummed me out. I'll be really interested to see kind of how we reload or can we reload. When you get 30 transfers from James, where was it? James Madison? Is that where they came from?
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, um, the good news is you can reload pretty quickly. I don't know. Are we going to be an attractive team in the transfer portal after having such a bad loss? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I think Signetti is an amazing coach. I like him. I like his bravado. I think IU football is on the right trajectory for the first time in a long time. Are we going to be a top 10 team next year? No, not at all. But can we play in the Big Ten? We can. Um, so I don't know. Are we going to be bowl eligible? I have a feeling we're going to make bowl games for the foreseeable future, and that's just not something that we could have said for the last however many years.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And to answer your question already, they have already landed a pretty good quarterback as a transfer through the transfer portal. Some guy named Carlos Mendoza, I think is his name. And yeah, his last name is Mendoza, but he's basically the number 4 player in the transfer portal and as a
oh wow,
quarterback.
okay,
And that's huge because that's one thing that we're definitely going to need. Our quarterback is fifth year redshirt senior or something. So he's
yeah,
Rourke is gone at this point. But yeah, I like Signetti too, and I liked his bravado until he started really shooting off his mouth about how he beats the shit out of top 25 teams.
right,
And I'm just like, oh God, dude, you really need to focus more on coaching your team than you do on your press conferences or your interviews.
right,
But like the one thing that became very painfully obvious about IU football this year is much as they had some really great wins, is there was there were no instances of them getting knocked on their heels that they were able to recover from it. Like that's exactly what happened at Ohio State. That's what happened in South Bend. They didn't have the fortitude or the ability to be like, okay, we're finally playing a good team. Now we need to step back and rethink how we do things. And I don't know if that's a coaching thing, if that's a leadership thing. It could be a little bit of everything. they just didn't have a lot of experience at that. They were creaming teams all year, and then when they finally faced somebody good and got knocked back a little bit, they didn't know how to respond. And that happened very much in both of those games. And it was disappointing. I wanted to see them do better, but also it's the best season that they've ever had. They made the college football playoffs, whether they should or whether they shouldn't have. It's awesome that they were there. It's got to do wonders for their recruiting. It has to. And if Signetti
Yeah.
really is a good coach, which I do think he is or could be, he just needs the players. He needs to pull in some more players, give them a little time to have some chemistry and figure out who they are. And I think that I mean, this is for his first year. So, yeah, of course, they're still creating culture there. So, I think it's going to be ultimately a great thing for the program in the future. I agree. I think they'll be in some bowl games. I don't know if they'll be in the college football playoffs again anytime soon. I think if whoever, and I still don't even understand um, the hierarchy of the org charts of the people who are making these decisions about who puts who in the playoffs, but it's not IU's fault that they got embarrassed. It's really they need to do a better job of equally balancing strength of schedule with number of wins. I think that that's just something that is so still very subjective that it helped IU to get into the
Yeah.
playoffs. But I mean, you put them next to somebody like Alabama. Alabama had 3 losses, but they had a much tougher schedule.
Yeah.
But then you got Penn State. Penn State had the same shitty schedule that IU did, the exact
Yep.
same shitty schedule, except they played Oregon, but that was in the conference championship game. That could have easily have been IU, and they could have gotten embarrassed, or they
Yeah.
could have gotten their butts whipped. But the toughest game on Penn State's schedule was Ohio State. So
Yeah.
same thing that IU had to deal with.
Yeah. So if you look at the first round of the playoffs, right, you got Notre Dame beat Indiana 27-17. To your point, Penn State beat SMU 38-10. Texas beat Clemson 38-24, and Ohio State beat Tennessee 42-17. None of those games, with the exception of Texas and Clemson, were even like there were basically 4 blowouts, in that first round. And to your point, right? It's like Penn State. Penn State actually, in my opinion, has I think you could say the easiest path to the title. Like if you're Oregon right now, you're screwed because you gotta play uh, January 1st. You're playing Ohio State, which the number 1 seed, in my opinion, should not have to play 4 games to win the national. It's just ridiculous the way the brackets are set up.
Yeah,
They had to
I
beat
don't
them.
disagree.
They had to play them in the Big Ten championship. Now they're going to play them again. So, anyways, so let's see. We got 4 games coming up next week. So you got Notre Dame plays Georgia at 8:45 on New Year's Day. What do you think? How do you feel about that game?
Well, on a normal day, I would be terrified of that game, but Georgia's quarterback is out, from what I
Mm-hmm.
understand. And that Notre Dame, I believe, unless it has changed, is going into that game being favored, which is fucking crazy.
It's
Because
huge. Yeah.
Georgia, if they're healthy, is a great football team that would absolutely beat up Notre Dame, no problem. But you said that Penn State might have the easiest road. Notre Dame's road just got a lot easier. I mean, you start with IU, you go to Georgia if you play them less than healthy, and if you can somehow pull that off, I mean, I
Then you
don't
got
know.
Penn State. Then you got the winner. Yeah. Then you got the winner of Penn State and Boise State.
I think Notre Dame could
Yeah.
sneak their way into the finals. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they deserve to win, but just by, sheer fortitude and experience, they may be able to do it. I don't know. It's a tough call. I don't know anything about Boise State. I know they're ranked 3rd, but I don't know, are they really that good or did they just win their division? I don't know. I mean, if Notre Dame got past Georgia, a Notre Dame Penn State semifinal would be pretty
Oh,
fucking epic. That would be great.
massive,
I would love to
massive.
see that. I mean, I would fucking hate to lose to Penn State because I don't like them, but um, you know, it would be a great game, and ultimately, I don't know. I love the idea of not having an Alabama,
Yeah.
final in the college football
Yeah.
playoffs this year.
So okay, so that actually brings up a good point, and I think I know your answer. Like the expanded playoff is a massive win for college football, right? Like
I think so.
unequivocally.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got right, yeah.
it's gonna drag it out till the end of January, which is interesting because usually we're like 7 or 8 days into January and we're already prepping for the national
for the national
championship game.
championship. Yeah.
But at this rate, I think it's gonna last, another 3 weeks, 4 weeks from where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the national college, the football championship, I think is like, it's like in late January, if I remember correctly, like the 20th or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, it's 120. It's January 20th
Yeah,
in Atlanta.
that's crazy.
And then at that point, you're smack dab in the middle of the NFL playoff season as well.
Yeah. But no, I love it. I think it's great. I think we're getting closer to fair, as much as
Yeah.
we can. Like the bowl system was a big fucking political,
Right.
bureaucratic
Yeah.
bullshit, money, hungry, whatever. Like I get it. That's how sports goes. But this at least, is getting closer to making the best teams, go
Yeah.
to giving them all a chance at that point. Now, granted, we still haven't figured it out, strength of the schedule and all of that stuff, but the playoff system is very important. And I think having the more than four teams is definitely best for that.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, we're making progress in college football. I think you're right. I think they're going to put a lot more emphasis on strength of schedule, because of the Indianas of the world, right? And I would hope that they would give a lot more. I'm trying to think like how you fix the Oregon situation, right? Because that's the other like bad part of this particular. Oregon has been the number one team all year. They're
Yeah.
undefeated, and they've got a really tough path to get to the championship game, which shouldn't be the case. I don't know how they fixed that,
I
but
mean, yeah, again, it's the seeding in the playoffs, I think. I
yeah,
think the seeding from a numbers perspective makes sense, but then you put certain teams in those numbers and then it's all of a sudden it doesn't
yeah,
like, wow,
it
like they
gets
got to beat
foobar.
some
Yeah,
some tough teams. Like I don't fucking feel bad for them because they're Oregon and they've been number
right.
one all
Yeah,
year. So let them fight a little harder if they really want this. If they're really that good, they'll win those games. Like
yes.
that's the way that I look at it. But um, whatever. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be the national champions. I'd be
You think so?
surprised if
You
that
think, or
wasn't the
you,
case.
you would
Yeah.
put your money on Oregon right now? Okay.
Yep.
Well,
For
there's
sure.
there's 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 going to be some good games. So another game, and then we can move on from college football. Another game that I have my eye on. I don't think I've even told you this. I'm almost positive that Grayson is going to be attending Mount Union University next year.
Really?
Yes. And the Mount Union Purple Raiders are playing in the Stag Bowl, which is the Division III national championship this year. So we are super excited to watch that game. It's in
Nice.
Houston, Texas. It's on January 5th. And so if you're looking for something to do on January 5th, you can follow along with us and we'll be watching the Mount Union Purple Raiders hopefully win a national championship for Division III football, which is
Nice.
super exciting. Yeah.
That is
So
cool. That's super
yeah.
awesome.
What else you got? You got a couple more topics?
A couple more things I think that fall under the umbrella of the shit that we usually talk about here.
Yes.
Um, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there was some pretty big trailers that have dropped recently, movie trailers for movies that are coming up next year. The biggest of all of them, I think, has to be the Superman trailer. The new Superman
Yes.
movie has released its first trailer. This is the James Gunn universe of DC and getting started with that. And, we have, or certainly I have lamented to great lengths about the mishandling of the DC properties, starting with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and ending with whatever the last movie was. I just don't, I'm not a big fan, other than like a few moments, maybe one or two movies in that whole series. The best thing to come out of the Snyderverse era is John Cena's Peacemaker, in my opinion. I don't know if you watch, I can't remember if we talked about that, if you watched that show, but it's fucking great. It is a great, great, great show. I highly recommend for
It
anything DC.
I haven't watched it all, but I have watched several episodes. And the reason, in my opinion, that it's so great is that is such a departure for John Cena. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that character to me is, I love watching John Cena play that character because he's just so different than anything he's played. than certainly than his wrestling character, his all-American
Oh yeah.
good guy character. I love that, but yes, I agree. I'm not huge on the Snyderverse. I'll tell you what, I'm not as down on the Snyderverse as a lot of fanboys are, but it's not great. I enjoyed which Superman was it with where Kevin Costner was the dad? I enjoyed that one.
That
It was
was Man of Steel.
decent.
That was the
Okay.
first movie.
Did we see that together? We did, didn't we?
Maybe. I don't remember.
I think we saw that together. Yeah, it was okay. This new trailer though, which was shot in Cleveland, the movie.
No shit.
Um, yeah, it was. The trailer looks fucking great. I'm not super sure about crypto, but like,
Yeah. There are some things that I'm just like, all right, I'm not entirely
what do you got?
sure.
What do you got? Give
But
me a trailer reaction. What do you got?
I liked it. I thought it was good and I thought it was moving in the right direction. I'm sort of conflicted about whether I think it's a good idea to make this movie another origin story, which it's not. It's not an origin story,
I
but
was
I'm
gonna say
trying to
because I didn't think it was. Was it?
it's not, but I'm trying to figure out, well, should it be? Because is it
Oh,
is
I
it
gotcha.
okay to tell another origin story or should we skip that? Because if you skip it all, then you sort of it's hard to let go of the old baggage if you don't create a new origin story. But at
Yeah,
the same time, we all know Superman's origin story. It's been told multiple times at this
right.
point. And so is it necessary? Probably not. But is it look, if you go back to 1975's Superman, directed by Richard Donner, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And it spends a lot of time, oh, probably about half the movie in his origin story before he even puts on the red and blue tights. And as a child, I thought that was the most boring thing in the world. All I wanted to see was Superman fly and save people. And as an adult, I think it's the best part of the whole fucking movie. It's great and it has great performances and it's really good thoughtful, spaced out storytelling. So that's what I didn't like about Man of Steel because it just didn't feel that way, or it felt like it was trying to retread. But this one I'd say the trailer was good. I am excited. I look forward to this guy who's playing Superman. I don't know him from much of anything. I think I've seen him in a couple things, but like I like the fact that he's relatively unknown at this point. I think Lois Lane is a tremendous upgrade. I did not like Kate Bosworth. I loved Margot Kidder. I thought she was a great Lois Lane, and not because she's the most beautiful or striking, but she just had that fucking like she just had that something. She had all that piss and vinegar in her, and she just played that part the way that I felt like it needed to be played. And I think that I don't remember Rachel Brosnahan, or I'm not pronouncing her
Brosnan.
name right.
Yeah, yeah.
She was in the
She's in
the
House of
Mrs.
Cards, right?
She's in the Amazon show the Mrs. Mabel or the fabulous oh God, I'm butchering it. I'm so sorry.
Mrs. Maisel.
Mrs. Maisel. Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah,
A really, really good show. She's a great actress, and I think she's going to be great in this movie. Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor, I think could be really solid. I liked him in the X-Men movies and a lot of the stuff that I've seen him in. So, but they teased some of the old Superman music in the trailer. They didn't overkill it. They didn't replicate it, but they made it kind of their own thing. The crypto thing was tastefully done, but I'm a little bit on edge about that because I don't want that dog to be a focal point of the story by any means. And there were some other characters in that story that are clearly going back to older Superman comics, other characters that I like a Green Lantern character that I'm just not familiar with. There's a lot of stuff that you can absorb from that trailer that
yeah.
I didn't understand, but I'm also not scared of. I didn't look at that trailer and think, oh Christ, it's doomed. Like I'm not super, super excited, but I'm hopeful that this next iteration is going to steer the ship back in the right direction.
Okay, so yeah, I would agree. And again, I was kind of joking about crypto. I thought the trailer looked great. I'm a little bit leery just because trailers can look great and then movies can be terrible for
They
great
should.
trailers.
If they don't look great, then
Right, then it's
that
that's a
movie's
problem, right?
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not an origin story, which I tend to agree with. I don't think we need another origin story. Does this follow one of the previous Superman movies? Like, are those canon, or is this a brand new? There is no canon before this.
My
Do we
understanding
know?
is this is brand new and there is no canon, which is why it's weird that there's not an origin story to some degree, right? Like they
Yeah.
maybe they don't have to tell that, but at the same time, it's almost like you're picking up in the middle of something that doesn't exist before that. So
Right.
you have to kind of
Okay.
be patient with how you tell that story, I think, because if you try to rush it, it might be a little overwhelming. At least it would be for me.
I just kind of hope Lex Luthor doesn't have a land grab storyline that like he's, you know what I mean? Like he wants land, but
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean,
You know, to be
um,
fair, that was a perfectly fine
the first one
uh
was amazing. It was awesome.
story
Yeah.
plot,
Yeah.
you know, like that was fine. Like that was actually in the sense, you know, kind of clever. Like I remember being a kid and hearing about the San Andreas fault and that, you know, California is just gonna the one
Fall
earthquake
off,
away
right?
from
Yeah.
falling in the ocean. So like him creating that earthquake to and then buying all that land, like that I thought that was a clever plot. But I also think they did the same fucking thing in Superman Returns and just absolutely
Yeah.
ruined. It just it almost shit on the original movies because they tried to ape so much of that content
Yeah.
and they did it so poorly. And no offense to Brandon Routh, like I like Brandon Routh. I think he got a raw
Yeah.
deal, the most raw deal out of the whole thing, but nothing about that movie
I thought he
worked.
was a good Superman. I thought he was very good.
I didn't think he was a
Um,
great Clark Kent, but I did really like him as Superman. And I
yeah.
think this new guy has got to figure out how to do something similar to what Christopher Reeve did, because Christopher Reeve's greatest asset as an actor, I think, was the dichotomy he created between Clark Kent and Superman. Like it wasn't, yeah, visually, you know, you could tell they were the same person, but they acted very different. Their
It's just
pot,
the
you
way
know,
he carried himself. It was very different. Yeah.
literally like his posture was different as Clark
Yeah.
Kent than he was as Superman. And I think that he did such a masterful job of that that it made us believe, you know, that this was a real thing. And that's what I really hope to see with this new one. So I don't know.
Do
I'm hopeful. I thought it was
yeah.
good. I thought the trailer was good and we'll see what happens. I think it comes out is it July maybe?
It's in July, yeah. Do
So
we
it's gonna
make
be a
do we
ways.
make do we make anything out of the fact that James Gunn like jumped franchises? Does that mean anything to anybody other than super nerds, or is it just no? Okay, that's fine.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think
Yeah,
James Gunn did great work in the Marvel universe. I think James Gunn, if he seems to love DC more, and I'm glad that the helm is now held by somebody who has done movies that I've liked
yeah.
and could potentially push all this in the right direction. So, no, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
Or there any other trailers you'd seen that kind of
The
caught your
so
eye?
the only other trailer that I saw that I did think was kind of interesting, and I don't know if I'll like it or even watch it, but there's a new Karate Kid movie coming out, and it's called Karate Kid Legends. And this features this is sort of a multiverse, if you will, or a combination of the two Karate Kid universes, because obviously there were the first three Ralph Macchio Karate Kid movies. There was a subsequent fourth movie that did not have Ralph Macchio, but did have Pat Morita and Hilary Swank called The Next Karate Kid. Don't know that anybody saw that one. And then that died. And then years later, they rebooted The Karate Kid with Jackie Chan as the Miyagi character, not as
And Will
Miyagi,
Smith's
but
son, right?
yes, and Will Smith's son Jaden, I believe, as the Karate Kid, as the titular character, as it were. And I think this movie combines those two worlds. Now, I don't know if Jaden Smith is in this movie, but Jackie Chan is, and Ralph Macchio is. So I don't know what the storyline is. I don't know if William Zabka comes back for this. It doesn't seem like it's maintaining the same theme as the Cobra Kai show. Like the Cobra Kai show is a very lighter, much more comedic and punchy version of the Karate Kid, which was a great way to take that show. This seems to be going back to more of a serious, dramatic perspective based on that trailer. So, and I don't know. I don't honestly know if it'll be any good. I don't know if I need any more from Ralph Macchio at this point. I will say that Cobra Kai show has been everything that I wanted it to be and more, and it's going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. I think in February, the last couple episodes of the final season will air on Netflix. And I'm so happy that they did everything that they did with it. Maybe carried it on one season too long, but like they're like, we're done. This is it. They're ending things off, and I'm happy about that. But yeah, I don't know. Like this is just one of those things from my childhood. There's so many franchises from my childhood that I felt like got worse as time went on. And this is the one that I just think they corrected. They found a way to break the curse, if you will, and just create something fun and uh, remind us what we loved about those movies to begin with. And some of the other ones, Indiana Jones, even Star Wars to some degree, some of them just kind of lost track. And I really appreciate the Karate Kid kind of course corrected back in a good direction, and I think ends in a positive place.
Now, for years during Cobra Kai, I had heard rumors of a new Karate Kid movie that was going to take place after Cobra Kai. Is that Karate Kid Legends, or is there another one? Like, is
I
that what
think it
that
is.
movie is? Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
I that's what I think.
Okay.
And again, I don't know
Is
anything else about that
Yeah.
movie. They do have that trailer that came out, and the kid who the movie is focused around looks like a crazy talented martial artist, and it looks pretty interesting. So I don't know. I don't know what the whole Jackie Chan Ralph Macchio thing is
Okay.
going to be. It seems to be. I'm
Like,
assuming they're going to say Jackie Chan knew Ralph Macchio, or I'm sorry, he knew
yeah.
Mr. Miyagi in some
Like,
previous life or whatever.
yeah. So I never saw that Jackie Chan Jaden Smith movie. So maybe they explained
I
that
didn't.
there.
No, I didn't
Do
either.
you do you know, or has it been said, like, is Cobra Kai canon for that movie? It's got to be, right?
I would assume so, but I, they've literally just released the
Yeah.
first trailer, and there's really not a lot to glean
There's not
from
much in
that
it.
as
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
relates
Okay.
to Ralph Macchio's Karate Kid universe. Like there's a couple scenes where him and Jackie Chan are talking, so they're obviously part of the same storyline. But I don't know if we're to assume. I assume it is. I assume it's all canon
Yeah.
and that it all happened. My guess is that they're not going to reference it a whole lot, and maybe that Billy Zabka is not in it because they're again thematically this is the Cobra Kai is much lighter. It borders on comedy sometimes, and the theme of what I saw from this recent trailer for this new Karate Kid movie is much more dramatic in tone, kind of like the very first Karate Kid movie. So I'm thinking I think if I had to guess, Ralph Macchio's got a glorified cameo in this, and that it's really about just bringing the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fans into this
Yeah.
movie theater for this picture.
Okay.
But I
All
don't
right.
know. We'll see what happens.
That's fair. I was reading an article about that and just kind of other upcoming sequels. They keep talking about a Goonies 2,
Mm.
40 years after the fact. I don't know if that's going to get legs. I don't know if I want to see it. I think at this point I'll probably see it just cuz from a nostalgia standpoint. Um
I think they
I don't
should.
know.
But I honestly think the time has passed. I think that
Yeah.
when Richard Donner died, the hopes of a Goonies sequel died because I think he would have done it, but Richard Donner, I mean, he died past 90 years old. So like he held
Yeah.
on for a long time and there was a lot of talks about it. It's just really a shame because of all the movies that ended up getting sequels from our childhood. Like that one really deserved one, I thought. It really could
Yeah.
have benefited from it. And especially once Ki Kwan, got super
Mhm.
famous again and won his
Josh Brolin, I mean, come on,
oh
right?
yeah, huge. And every single one of them said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Like
Yeah.
nobody from an acting perspective anyways was against doing it. I don't think so. I mean, maybe over the years they had to be convinced, but eventually every single one of them. I mean, Josh Brolin went as his character from Goonies for Halloween last year. Like he
That's
carried
right.
the exercise thing and he had the
That's right.
headband and the cutoff shirt. Like yeah, there's so much love and reverence for that movie. Like I can't imagine that there's a real legitimate block for that movie getting made.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
Did I send you the link? Josh Brolin was on Joe Rogan's podcast and it was amazing. Did I send you that link?
You didn't, but every single interview I feel like I see with Josh Brolin is really, really interesting. Like
It
he's such
is
an introspective human being.
that dude, and like they didn't talk about movies. They talked a little bit about No Country, but like it wasn't like what was it like to be Thanos? Like it wasn't anything like that.
Yeah,
So he's Josh Brolin is like 30 years sober. He talks a lot about his dealings with addiction, and
yeah.
I'll send it to you. It's a fascinating podcast, well worth your time to listen to. It's like 3 hours long. Rogan is, I don't know if you like Rogan, but he's a really good interviewer in my opinion. But it's well worth your time to listen to Josh Brolin. It's like he just wrote a book. I'm like, oh my god, I need to totally read that book.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. Um, all right, cool. Well, we made what New Year's Eve is next week. What you got any plans? You gonna stay home? You gonna make hit the ball? What are you gonna do?
I think we're gonna stay home, probably have some friends over, keep it kind of
Yeah,
local, kind of basics. 12:01, put the kids to bed kind of thing, and be done. And to be honest with you, like I'll be good at that point because the
yeah.
Thanksgiving and the Christmas and all the stuff, like
It's a
there are
lot.
so many events, there's so many things going on, and I'll be ready to just kind of get back to normal life at that point. So, we'll throw out one more great night and have fun, and hopefully that's it. But what about you guys?
Yeah, very similar. I think we're gonna kind of hang out here. Probably have dinner. I think last year we did fondue. I think we're gonna do that again. And there's some good football on that night. There's some good entertainment and just kind of relax. Yeah, we'll see that. I'm not even sure. I know one of my children will be home. The other two, I'm not even sure about. Like they might be out with girlfriends or friends or what have you. So
Yeah,
it might just be Amanda and Link and I, and
love it.
we'll see midnight, and that's just fine. You know what I mean? Like I've never been a big New Year's Eve party guy. Um, it's
Yeah, same.
it's amateur night, right? So like I don't want to be on the roads, and I don't want my kids to be on the road. So I'd rather them spend the night and wake up the next morning and come home. So
So seeing as though this is most certainly our last podcast of 2024, and we're again chucking towards our landmark episode. Um, what would you say if you had to pick something, movie, music, whatever, of our frequent topics? What are you most looking forward to for 2025? Like, what is
wow.
there a movie? Is there a show? Is there a wrestling event? Is there a thing? Like, what's on your horizon that you're like, God, I feel like I've been waiting for this for a long time. Next year it's happening. Super excited.
Wow.
It's a loaded question. If you need to think about it for a second, I'll go first because I had one sort of already loaded. But
Tell you what, go first,
okay,
and then yeah, that's fine. I'll think about it while you
of
talk, but I will
of
listen
the
to you.
of the things that we have not talked about, the final season of Stranger Things, the fifth season, is supposed to launch in 2025. Netflix just announced that it has wrapped filming as of the last week or so. And I love the show. I thought it was fantastic. I got sucked in by all the 80s nostalgia when it first came out, but then it really did a great job of developing all these individual characters. And kind of like Harry Potter, the themes started kind of light, but they really matured along with the characters, and it got deeper and darker and more interesting. And the new characters that they brought in were also interesting, and they just haven't done me wrong yet. So I'm excited not just for that to come out, but to have an excuse to binge watch and revisit the first four seasons, of which there's a lot of content. But that will come out. If I had to guess, oh, geez, I don't know. Historically, I feel like they usually come out around mid-year, around July, like maybe around July 4th. I know at least a couple seasons came out around that time. They could push it to Christmas. I don't know if there's a real benefit to that, financially from a streaming platform perspective, but I'm hopeful that it comes out mid-year, and I'm hopeful that they announce it soon officially so that I could plan out when I'm going to rewatch all the seasons. And I'm really looking forward to that because I don't remember so many different things. But I love that show so dearly, and I can't wait to see it end in 2025. So that's my thing that I'm looking forward to. I mean, we talked about Superman. There's there's most certainly going to be some other movies. Is the new Avengers movie, is that coming out in 2025? I can't remember the Doomsday one. Um,
I that it might be. I'm not sure.
I believe that is
I,
set for, nah, actually, that is set for 2026. So
is it?
we may have another low year for Marvel movies, although I don't know. I'm not getting excited about Captain America and Red Hulk, and I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah.
But there's some good stuff, in that respect coming out. So
Yeah. I mean, from a pop culture perspective, there's nothing specific that I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for this. Um, what I will say is I really do plan on going back to the movies this year more than I have in years past. In fact, I've
really
even
nice.
yeah. In fact, I even told Amanda, I said, I'm going to start going like, Thursday, every other Thursday night, Thursday nights, whatever, even if it's by myself, like I want, because I enjoy the movie going experience. There's a
So
lot of
much.
good films that I like. I really, in a weird sort of way, I want to give back. I want to continue to give my money, give my time to movie theaters. Like we've talked a couple times about Larry and my mother-in-law, Kathy, every month, I think, go with another couple, and they every month they like rotate around like who picks the movie, and they go to different movies, and like so literally every month they're going to the movies as the four of them. And I just love that. I love the fact that they have a standing date, and like if it's for me once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'm gonna go out of my way this next year to go back to the movies more than I have in the past.
That's
There's some
amazing.
good, yeah, there's some good horror stuff coming that I'm excited about. There's even, there's some Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus that I'm excited about. It's gonna sound weird, but I'm more excited about wrestling than I've been in years.
Yeah.
Like as I get older, it's funny, as I get older, I think about like what I want to spend my time and effort on, right? And it's like, do you want to collect comic books? Do you want to collect baseball cards? Do you want to do the, and I kind of go through all of these things. And like, I've been a wrestling fan for so long, and wrestling is so good right now, specifically like WWE wrestling. Like, you're in the, Vince is gone. We've talked about Vince. Triple H is here. The storylines are amazing. You're going into Netflix. You're going into, I mean, like, it's a great time to be a professional wrestling fan. And as if you listen to this podcast at all, like we talk about wrestling all the time, I'm more excited about wrestling now and my fandom for wrestling than I haven't been in years, which sounds crazy because I'm like this big super nerd when it comes to wrestling. So like that's what I'm most excited about. Like where do we go with professional wrestling? And like I'm really interested too in like where the WWE goes as a company in terms of like what does the WWE network look like? What does the Netflix relationship look like? What do PLEs look like? What does like those kind of things? I'm fascinated by the wrestling business. That's a really nerdy answer to your question, but like that's
No,
probably what I'm most excited about for 2025.
I don't think that's nerdy at all. I think that the business of professional wrestling with WWE specifically has continued to grow and evolve a lot. And, regardless of your feelings about Vince McMahon, and whatever happened and all the stuff, like the business hasn't lost a step. If anything, I feel like it
No.
has continued to pick up. They continue to make great business deals. They continue to market their product very intelligently, in my opinion. And it's a multi-billion dollar business. Like it's obviously working. And even if it's considered to be Barnum and Bailey, level entertainment, like it's doing it at a massive rate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's doing it with a huge number of people watching. And I'm sorry, but if it was that trashy, if it was that terrible, I don't think you'd find it coming on Netflix. I mean,
No.
that's huge. That is a
Hmm.
huge, huge thing. The eyeballs that are going to get access to this. I mean, I'll probably cancel fucking Peacock after this because why would
Oh
I
yeah.
keep it?
Yeah.
But I mean, like having it on Netflix is I don't think. I don't know the numbers, but I would guess there's not a streaming platform that's bigger than Netflix. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but that it's huge exposure for them. So they're obviously doing a lot of things right. And I think regardless of the fact that they don't really have a strong competitor in the market right now, which really pushed them to do good work, back in the, late 90s, early 2000s and all that, I think they're still pushing really hard to put out a good product. I think they would be better off with a competitor, but since we don't have that, and we probably won't have that for any time soon,
Yeah.
um, I'm happy to say that they don't. It doesn't feel like they've taken their foot off the gas. Now, what it's going to look like in a couple of years when some of the olders retire, like the
Hmm.
Punks and John Cena's obviously done by,
Yeah.
the end of next year, the middle of next year, whatever. But like, they're going to have to continue to build their brand and build their characters and find those people, the next Seth Rollins, the next Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, all those guys.
Yeah. So I just looked, there are 283 million global Netflix users right now. That's a lot of users.
Yeah.
It's like 70 million subscribers just in the United States. That's a lot. And that number
what does
that number is going
compare
to
to
go.
Peacock right now? I wonder.
That's a good
Like, can
question.
you pull that number for Peacock?
Looks like 36 million.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So, yeah, like
There you go.
roughly an eighth. The numbers are staggering. Oh, the other thing that I'm looking forward to in 2025 for this podcast specifically, not just getting to 100 because we'll get there. Like, that's cool, but it's going to be, it kind of is what it is. I would like to do another like deep dive.
Yeah,
series.
we didn't do one at all this year, did we?
We didn't. We did. I think the last ones we did were like the sequels and the prequels and again, I don't know, like we've chatted about, like, do we do the Halloween series, the Nightmare on Elm Street series? Do you like those?
Mm,
I think that would be really fun. I have found myself going back and listening to and reading a lot of like those podcasts, like going back and listening to them, and I think that would be really cool. I know that they're a pain in the ass to edit, they're a pain in the ass to go through and to prep for. But I would like to do at least one of those in 2025 where we say, hey, we're gonna focus these next 3 episodes on this series or whatever. I think that would be kind of cool. I hope you're up for that.
of course. And even if it's not a trilogy necessarily, it can just
Mhm.
be a movie that we really love, and we'll just do a
Yeah.
deep dive on Big Trouble in Little China or something
There you
like
go.
that,
Yeah.
We could definitely do that. And the sequel that could have been, or whatever. We could do all that kind of stuff. I would love to do another deep dive on movies because we haven't done that
It's been a
since I
while.
think Halloween, right? Is that the last series
We
of
did.
movies
Yeah.
that
We
we
probably
did?
did Halloween, maybe Halloween Ends. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that
So
would be kind of cool.
yeah, let's commit to that and that'll be awesome. But
All right.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure I will talk to you, but for our listeners, Happy New Year. 2024 has been awesome. I hope 2025 is amazing. I love doing this podcast with you, brother. It's amazing. I love
It's
it.
the best.
Yeah.
And in all sincerity, thank you to anyone who is listening right now, who's sat through, the hours and hours of wrestling conversation and all the geeky shit that we talk about. If there is anybody out there who listens to this, then I just want to say thanks. And if there is not, then I'm cool with that too, because I get to talk with my best friend about the things that I love the most. And there are fewer things that I look forward to more than this. So the feeling is mutual, brother.
Indeed. All right. That being said, that's Mr. Pip. I'm Chewie. This is the 411 from 406. Aloha, bitches.
Adios.